On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks get Dereck Lively and O-Max Prosper. What are our thoughts on their impact on the Dallas Mavericks right away? What was our favorite quote from Nico Harrison and the new mentality it seems like the Mavs front office has? Plus, we'll talk about the rest of the draft too and our thoughts on that on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Join the Raccoon Squad, be an everydayer. Subscribe and follow for free. Just search Locked On Mavericks wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow this show is to listen every day and to comment anything below. Let us know what you thought about the Mavericks Draft Night, what you're excited about for Dereck Lively and O-Max Prosper. And if you want to support the show, subscribe to our subtext. Click the link in the description below. You'll text with us. I've been texting with some people today, enjoying it. I love the one-on-one interaction we get. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, contributor at Mavs.com. The day after the draft, dude, the One More Thing King, what you got for me, Isaac Harris?
O-Max.
You're still glowing.
Can we get that as like a chant in the AAC? Oh, Max.
He's got to throw down a huge dunk or something.
Listen, you came at me today online. You want to make just let me be a dad making a dad joke. I was like, I could delete this meme, but I'm like, I don't know. I just thought it was funny, and you're like, yeah, you didn't use it right.
Well, it's not how the meme works. So. Isaac has been huge on O-Max. That's like the one guy that he wanted in this draft. Apparently the one guy Nico Harrison wanted in this draft too. And so Isaac said, IMAX, Baymax, O-Max, I'm ready for next season, and posted the Luka with the do-rag and like a cigarette in his mouth, which like it's the correct picture and the correct like caption, but you're supposed to use it against, it doesn't matter what they throw at me, I'll beat them no matter what. And like use it as his teammate instead. But it was your day. You get a pass for that because you just enjoy your day.
Can I throw at you some potential nicknames?
Oh, how is it better than O-Max just in general?
No, because trust me, just wait. If we get the chance to interview him at Media Day,
oh my gosh,
you're not ready for this.
No, I'm gonna have to step out of the room.
I'm gonna pitch him some nicknames.
Okay.
HBO Max.
It's just called Max now, so
I know.
Okay.
But could we bring back HBO Max? Here's this one. I actually came up this day as I was driving down the road and I saw something on the side of the road. Cinemax O-Max. Dang it!
You said you saw it on the side of the road like it was some revelation.
I just thought it was kind of cool. Cinemax O-Max, whenever he's doing his whole like
you could do Cine O-Max, but like
that's weird.
You're just adding a word to his first name.
Can we incorporate Baymax anywhere into it?
I would love to. I love Baymax.
I know I do too.
Your personal healthcare companion.
If we watch that movie so much right now, it's pretty good.
Oh, you should invite me over. I would come watch it.
Let's do it. Pizza Planet. Baymax.
I got my Pizza Planet shirt on right now.
Anyway, I can't wait to talk to him. Official press conferences for those two guys Monday afternoon, 2:30. Probably going to be streamed on Mavs.com. Well, we'll probably both be there.
Yeah.
Ask us some questions. Got to meet them.
We're very excited about it. So today's show, we'll get into some of our thoughts about the rest of the NBA draft and some other things that happened. And we'll talk about, I just want to talk about the Mavs' new approach, or the Mavs' approach to the draft last night. We talked a lot about the moves that they made yesterday, but we heard some things from Nico Harrison, from Michael Finley that I want to discuss and talk about. So we'll get into that. But the overwhelming national support, like national media was supportive of what the Mavericks did. Sam Vecini, John Hollinger, a lot of people that I was reading and looking at were very, very positive about what the Mavericks did. Rafael Barlow loved the pick because he was mocking Dereck Lively to the Mavericks for weeks and weeks leading up to this. Yeah. And it seems like everybody is overwhelmingly supportive of it. After one day, how do you still feel about the moves?
No, I feel great about him. It's funny seeing the media who it still just baffles me. I still don't really fully understand it. The amount of media people who got so upset about the Mavericks losing those 2 games last season to miss the play-in. Whenever they weren't even like controlling their own destiny or anything, like even if they won them, they wouldn't have gotten in. But for some reason, that really made a lot of media mad. So it's kind of funny seeing a lot of these guys kind of eat their words. Like even I think it was Hollinger who said, as much as I didn't like, them tanking, last year, they've turned around. They use this opportunity now. So, I mean, the more I look at it, I have a lot of the same thoughts. Obviously, I'm super excited that we got O-Max. I was really high on him. Both of them being top 20 players, in my opinion. And both of them just fitting this team and roster needed some more energy, some more athleticism, some length. Yes, some just bigger bodies, just everything. And both of these guys fit that. And even seeing some of the videos that's came out from from the Mavs social team of them, seeing each other for the first time up there in New York, and they're like teammate, and hugging. And it's they seem like they're good guys, and man, I think they're gonna be a lot of fun for Mavs fans to root for.
O-Max has got incredible energy. His comp from a lot of people, Leaf Tulane on Big Board as well as Sam Vecini, compared him to Dorian Finney-Smith. They have the exact same like measurements coming out of the combine. O-Max is younger than what Dorian was coming out. I think he's a better shooter a little bit than Dorian.
He's a little thicker too.
Coming out definitely a little thicker than Dorian, but just he has really great energy that we didn't see from Dorian early on, but we saw later on, and you just can see that infectious like personality that he can have. Like that clip they posted where he sees Dereck Lively from across the room. He goes, teammate, and they go and they embrace, and like that's infectious. I watched the ESPN feature on Dereck Lively's family, like just. Yeah. The things that this guy has gone through and the things that he's worked through. He lost his dad to addiction when he was 7. His mom had, oh my gosh. I can't remember. Hodgkin's lymphoma. I couldn't remember the name of it off the top of my head. She had Hodgkin's lymphoma. She's in remission and all that. The journey of him going through that. He's got the date of her remission tattooed on his leg, like that kind of stuff. Like they're just guys that you just want to root for. And that's so great to have on a team and to bring these guys in and to now be part of this like young core. All of a sudden the Mavericks have Lively and O-Max and Jaden Hardy and Josh Green and even throw Luka Doncic in there that he's still young. Like they have this young group and it's really nice. And it's interesting to me to look at these guys now and look at what the Mavericks did and see, well, the Mavericks, they didn't go all in on, all right, it's got to be now. They didn't do I'm trading out of the 10th pick for a guy that's already established, a Capella or somebody like that. They didn't completely trade out of that. They got 2 guys, actually. They doubled down on youth, and they doubled down on the future, and they doubled down on cost-controlled contracts. And to me, I look at that and I see, well, that's what you should do, right? That's not a move that you necessarily make if your team just missed the playoffs last year. There's a ton of pressure on you. Luka may leave next year, and so we could look back and say that those were irresponsible moves. But I think for the health of the franchise going forward, these are necessary moves because of the cap coming, the new second apron that's gonna like hamstring some teams going forward. And so the Mavericks doubled down on youth and they doubled down on rebuilding the roster and cost-controlled assets instead of just going all out for panic moves. They didn't make panic moves last night, and I really, really thought that was an interesting look at it. Now, the draft is all about the future and all about youth and all about that. And then free agency is all about the immediate and that. And Nico Harrison said they're not done yet. So we still have to see what they do there. But I just thought that, that approach to the draft was it was refreshing, but it was also interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to try to do a little bit of what some other teams are out there doing of like, hey, trying to thread the needle a little bit of win now. We want to put a roster around Luka that can win now, that can get back to the playoffs, potentially make a run and all of that, but also have a couple young guys on the team too. Like that was one of the biggest things we talked about yesterday. They kept almost all their trade assets, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they still have contracts to move. They still have the future first. They still have a Josh Green and Jaden Hardy, if depending on how you feel about them or how the franchise feels about them. So they could still go out now, we'll see what the Kyrie number comes in at, but like they could have the MLE. Like there are multiple avenues now that they could still make win now moves and still have at least one of the young guys from last year and a Lively, a O-Max and stuff. So that's I really like the direction we're heading so far in the first few days of this off season, however you want to say it.
Yeah. Coming up, let's talk about our favorite quote of the night. Let's talk about any other thoughts we have about Lively and O-Max. And then I want to get into the rest of the draft to get your thoughts, because we haven't really talked about some of the other moves that happen across the league. So we'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs has you covered. Isaac, you got your Bird Dogs on?
Not right now, but they're washed, they're clean, they're ready to go to attack another Texas heat day.
Oh my! It has been insanely hot, and you don't want to wear pants, but you still want to look good. Bird Dogs has you covered. Go check out the shorts that they have. All kinds of great stuff. They have they have like khaki color, they have gray, they have like dark blue, they have lighter, they have camo, all kinds of different things for all kinds of different occasions. These are the ones that we have right here. And they all have this liner on the inside of them that just make you feel good, feel secure, feel like your legs are sculpted and they're stretchy and movable and all that. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA. You'll also get a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We guarantee it.
Whoa. Unless.
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show. We're going daily. This is what we do during some of these big events. We're going daily. So tomorrow we'll come back and talk more about the future and free agency. We'll talk about the next upcoming week. Nico Harrison said free agency starts now. He said that in the night of the draft. And so we'll start free agency tomorrow.
and I think a move or two that they made on draft night affects kind of could potentially changed a little bit of the course of free agency. Can we talk, before we do a quote, can we talk about Dereck Lively in the center spot for a second?
Yeah, go.
So, no matter how you felt about Dereck Lively, and, when we did the whole Lively prospect pod profile, there you go. Back a few weeks ago, we talked about when you bring a young big man into a team, like you hardly ever see a young big man have a prominent role in a playoff team, a win now team. Yeah. When you look at this roster and their decision to go with Lively, we knew going into the offseason they had to get better at the 5 spot. Like they had to get one or two or completely change up the bodies that they were going to have at the big man spot, because what they did last offseason didn't work, obviously, in JaVale McGee and, Dwight Powell still being here, Christian Wood, see ya, so like they got to remake the big man room in Dallas. So what's your path to doing that? Here's the path. Here's your options. If you're Dallas going into this offseason before the draft, you have the draft that you could use on a big man, a Dereck Lively trade down for, Najee, whoever it is. You could go the bullpen approach again and go out there and try to piece together 2 to 3 guys like you did last offseason and say, all right, we still got Dwight. They could have bought Dwight back. They could have went out there and said, all right, can we get another guy like a JaVale, $5 or $6 million guy, and then add another guy, and it's like, all right, we got Dwight, new free agent, Maxey, and try to piece together a little bullpen like that. They could go out and spend big money on a center like a DeAndre Ayton, a Rudy Gobert, and trade for a big investment into a $30+ million center. The sweet spot, which is so hard to do, is the fourth option, is the $20 million range, as the Jared Allens, the Miles Turners of the world. So when you look at it from Dallas' perspective, like that's your options of upgrading the 5-man, the 5-man spot. And yes, if you could go out and get a Miles Turner, Jared Allen for super cheap at the $20 million range, that sounds awesome. But the next alternative is what Dallas did. They looked at it and said, you know what? Instead of us going out and trading for a DeAndre Ayton that's going to make $33 million next year, we would much rather take the swing and take a Dereck Lively who's going to make less than $5 million next year.
Yeah,
and it's going to be around that $5 million mark. It's kind of like not to the same degree, but it's kind of like the rookie quarterback in the NFL. That's like, hey, when you got him on this young contract, then you can spend all the money elsewhere. It's like, all right, now you got a guy in a Dereck Lively. That's going to be, now I think they should still add another center and stuff. I don't think you just automatically commit to Lively, but you have this guy at $4.7 million, 4.8 that is now going to be a center for you that's you're hoping will just grow for the next 3 or 4 years. So I think that's the money aspect of it alone, no matter how you feel about him and his ceiling in the league. I think when you look at it and say, dude, this dude's only going to cost us like $5 million like each year over the next 3 or 4 years. Like that's huge for Dallas for spending the money elsewhere on the positions that they really need to, like the wings.
Absolutely.
Sorry,
no, you're good. I could hear your kid screaming in the background, and then you were screaming in the foreground. And you're very passionate.
Shut up! I'm talking about Lively's cap number.
Very, very passionate family moment you guys just had. Yeah, and this was their other option, and they one of the refreshing things that I liked about one of the quotes that I loved coming out of the draft is Michael Finley came and somebody asked, do you think that Dereck Lively fills that need that you guys had? And Michael Finley responded,
"Did you see us play last year?" No.
Like, no, he doesn't fill all the needs we have. Did you guys see us play? Nico Harrison also talked about like, hey, we're not done yet. Like, this is just the beginning when he talked about draft night and saying that, hey, we got more moves. This mentality for them of, I think last year was so incredibly embarrassing for them, right? We've talked about this all offseason so far. They've got to nail these moves and they've got to make it work and turn this thing around and like just get a couple of things. Another thing that I'm really excited about with these two guys, and it was mentioned a couple times in draft night from Nico, from Michael Finley, and even the players themselves, the Mavs aren't going to ask them to do a whole lot, right? Like they're going to ask them to do the things that they're good at because they don't need Lively to post up. They don't need O-Max to drive to the basket and like create offense or anything like that. Like you're spotting up, he's going to get the best shots he's ever gotten in his career.
I will say this, I'm calling it right now. He's going to hit 3 or 4 threes in a summer league game and people are going to freak out. Mark my words right now. I'm calling it right now. He's going to make 3 to 4 threes in one summer league game and people are going to flip their crap.
Explain yourself.
Sorry.
You don't have to explain yourself when it comes to O-Max love.
Can I say this too?
Well,
I was talking about Lively, but let me say this too about Lively in the pick. What was the alternatives that we could also look at that spot? Like if you're in the camp of, all right, they're at 10, can we just throw the Cam Whitmore stuff out of the equation for a second? Because we still don't know the full story. And 16 other teams passed on Cam Whitmore.
Jazz passed on him twice.
Jazz passed twice. Houston passed on him once, then got him at the 20th pick. Dallas obviously passed on. Like 16 other teams. That's over half the league.
Magic passed on him twice.
Passed on Cam Whitmore. Okay, so like half the league passed on him. So I just don't know the full story yet. We've heard medicals, you hear the interviews, you hear the workouts, you hear all of that. So I kind of like I'm just not, I mean, yes, I guess we can all do this years from now and be like, oh my gosh, he went 20th. It's like, okay, well, half the league passed on him. So, half the league's in that boat. So let's take Cam Whitmore out of it. Who else did you want to draft if you weren't in the Lively camp?
Yeah,
was it Case and Wallace at 10? And so I guess you could have the whole debate on Case and Wallace versus Lively and all that. But if you're in the camp that you liked the Bertans dump, and then you could, you opened up some money and they're sitting there at 12. Well, Case and Wallace is already gone. So then who did you want besides Dereck Lively? Was it a Grady Dick? Like, I just don't know. Like, I'm taking Dereck Lively there at 12 over any of those guys that's left for sure.
Wasn't a reach.
Yeah, and I hear it over Case and Wallace too. Like I hear that. I think it would be much bit different if it was like a Taylor Hendricks there, or even like a Thompson brother or Anthony Black or something like that that's sitting there at 10, and they took Lively over him. It's like, all right, or if Cam Whitmore went to Orlando at 11, and you're like, dang, like just one pick, like that's something we're going to be thinking about for a while. So and you can't really argue like trades either. Like you can't just say, hey, they're at 12, they shouldn't have taken Lively, they should just move back. Like if we don't know the framework, you can't play the what if card. I mean, I guess you could do the Collins deal, but
you could do they should have gotten Capella, they should have went and gotten Jared Allen. Okay, well, we know about the Capella deal. Yeah. And we also know about the Jared Allen deal, I think from sources from McMahon and from, I think, Cleveland.com and a couple, that if they were going to get Capella or Jared Allen, they'd have to give Josh Green or Jaden Hardy in the deal. and maybe not even trade down, like maybe just like send their pick in the Cavs deal, because the Cavs didn't have a first round pick. So would you rather do what the Mavericks did, or trade, Josh Green, the 10th pick, Tim Hardaway for Jared Allen, right? Like what would you rather done? And guess what? Jared Allen didn't even move, right? So it's not even a guarantee that it would have happened at that point. So you have to compare it against what else happened that day. Like, did they miss out? This is what we did last year in free agency is, they missed, like they went and got JaVale. Yeah, but Bruce Brown was we were on Bruce Brown, from that day. He was the only one that signed for what the Mavericks could sign for that we thought would have been better than what the Mavericks tried with JaVale McGee. And so you have to compare it that way. You can't compare it to, I wish they would have gotten Jay Crowder or whoever. And Jay Crowder signed for more. It doesn't work that way. And so, the Mavericks did really well. I like their mentality looking forward as far as, we're not done yet. Their mentality as far as, we're not going to ask these guys to do a whole lot. Nico Harrison was on, I think he was on the Freak today. And he said, I don't see these guys playing the G League. We'll develop their offense as they get on the floor, contributing on the defensive end. Like Lively and Prosper are going to be on the roster, obviously. And they're going to play on the regular team, which I know makes a lot of people nervous. I read a bunch of comments yesterday of, this is so dumb that they picked 2 rookies because Jason Kidd won't play them anyway. We don't know that. We just know that they have been patient in developing guys like Josh Green and Jaden Hardy, but those are 2 guys out of, those are the only 2 guys that we know this of from Jason Kidd. And so we'll see what happens with these guys. Also, and these guys are also different and also higher draft picks than those 2 other guys, right?
Yeah,
at least Lively is over Josh Green.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I don't know really what the history is that we're going. Like, I gotta understand that a little bit with Rick Carlisle, but Jason Kidd's like, all right, well, we took Hardy in the 2nd round,
right?
Like, Josh Green wasn't really like his. I mean, Josh still played a decent amount,
right.
So, and then Josh had a big injury. Obviously Nico could be lying, and that's part of the game. What that tells me a little bit is, shocker here, but I think more moves are going to be happening, because when you start looking at the roster right now, they'll have roughly 16 players under contract. Not 16, 11.
I was gonna say, it's not that they can have 18, by the way, with the three 2-way players coming now. They have, let's say that they're starting 5 with Luka. Let's say Kyrie comes back, we'll give him a half. Josh Green, Bullock, Dereck Lively, and then off the bench right now you have Tim, Maxey, Jaden Hardy, Prosper, and Rashawn Holmes, and then you have
JaVale.
I always forget JaVale when I write.
Can't forget JaVale. So obviously there's some guys like Theo Pinson, some of these guys that that Dwight that could come back on a cheaper deal, but they have roster spots that's open right now.
Wait,
people forget about Frank.
Stop. Yeah. We forgot. I think the whole league's probably going to forget about Frank this offseason.
He should just go back to the EuroLeague and something and be really good. I watched Nikola Mirotic the other day, win the championship, and I was like, that just looks like such a great life. Cool. Good for him.
But I could see, it would shock me if the guys who are currently under contract with the Mavericks are the exact same guys in the coming weeks.
Well, if anything, they've got 4 roster spots open, right? So,
yeah, and they got minimum stuff. They have, they still have a little bit of that traded player exception.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little over 3. So, they could take on a cheaper contract, probably as a 3rd team in a deal or something like that. They have that, the full MLE depending on Kyrie and all of that. So they can use that on a player and then, trade stuff, 2 for 1s or 1 for 2 and all of that stuff. But
yeah, we'll talk about that a lot tomorrow and what kind of options they'll have and all that. Did you have a favorite quote, one that we haven't mentioned yet?
Gosh. I don't think so. I was going to mention the non-G League one.
Yeah.
Just because, that's a pretty, they're both 1st round picks, but there's a way for him to answer that leaves the door open, right? Hey, we'll see. Let's get these guys in here. We might see them up at Frisco for a few games. And for him just to adamantly be no, we expect him to be with their team, and contributing. I think that's really cool.
What do you think about the the quote from Nico afterwards where he said, somebody said that you look happy. And he said, I'm genuinely a happy person, but we're really excited. Quote, we feel like we killed the draft.
Much different answer from his first draft, right? Remember us talking to him after his first draft, and he's like, yeah, it's kind of like a mock draft.
Yeah, they didn't have a pick, and he just kind of sat there and was like, all right.
Yeah, I think that was cool. I like him when he was like, hey, it's just the beginning. Not that like, hey, we're not done with the roster, but him saying it's just the beginning. Like if you take the culmination of all those type of quotes, even Finn's quote, like you're saying, of like, hey, did you watch us play like last year? This doesn't fill all of our holes. Like they really want to remake this roster, and they've started doing that. And it feels like it really is what Nico Harrison said. It's just the beginning. And that's what makes you excited as a Mavericks fan right now.
Oh, absolutely. I have the quote. I'm surprised you didn't say this, but the quote for you was, Nico Harrison talking about Olivier Maxence-Prosper.
When he
called him before the Kings trade was announced and said, I told you, O-Max, I was going to make this happen. O-Max, no matter what, Isaac Harrison, Nico Harrison on the same page. Isaac, Nico Harrison.
I texted Nico and I was like, dude, you got to give that quote. You got to tell the media that, we're going to get him. We're going to get our guy. And
that's great stuff.
It is fun.
Any thoughts on the rest of the draft? You didn't really get to. I comment on every single pick on the live stream if you want to go see that in sequential order. But any thoughts on what teams did? Bilal Coulibaly, we thought could be a riser, and we saw him rising up some boards. He ended up going 7. That seemed super high, but.
I actually got to this first year in a while that I didn't have to like work the draft. So actually grilled out, had some people over, and we turned all of our notifications off. Wow. So to watch the draft together and just to get the like full experience of them saying a name. So when they said Coulibaly with the Pacers pick, I was like, whoa, no way. Like, what is he going to play with Halliburton and Mathurin? And, then, Woj came on, said that, so yeah, that was a little surprising for me. I think for the guys that I really liked in this draft, like the Anthony Black, Jaime Jaquez, O-Max, I love all the spots they landed in. Like, I hate the Heat, but it's like, dude, Jaquez is such a Heat player, and he's going to be so good for him. Obviously, I love the O-Max fit, and I love the Anthony Black fit in Orlando to run the show and to be this, better version of a Markelle Fultz and have that vision at the point guard spot with Paolo and Franz and those guys. Like, I think he's just going to, what a big lineup too at 6'6", 6'7" point guard to go with Paolo and Franz. And I like a lot. The Jett Howard pick for Orlando was a little surprising. I wouldn't have pegged him as the first shooter to come off.
That was the first pick that made me go like, whoa, what? Like, just surprised.
Yeah. I like Hawkins a lot as the best shooter in the draft. And so Jett going before Hawkins and Grady Dick was
what a weird run there. We had Jett Howard to the Magic, Dereck Lively to the Mavericks, Grady Dick to the Raptors, Jordan Hawkins to the Pelicans.
Yeah, obviously I think the story of the draft outside of the top was the Cam Whitmore fall. And, you had that stretch there to where I feel like I was saying what probably a million other people were saying, you've got to be kidding me. He's going to be a Laker, isn't he? And it was like, of course the Heat are going to get Whitmore. And then after that, I was like, dude, I swear if the Heat just get Cam Whitmore, and it's like the span of those three teams, and they all three passed on him.
Well, and then the Warriors were right after Lakers and Heat, and you're like, oh boy.
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah, Warriors. And I was like, Warriors are really just gonna luck into Cam Whitmore here. And it's like they all passed on him, and I was like, okay, well, something's really up. And yeah, I don't think anybody really knows how to like properly grade it and stuff right now. But Houston, I like what they did. There wasn't a team out there that I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
This is a deep draft.
I'm not a big fan of. I would have taken Scoot. I think he's the better prospect over Brandon Miller.
Yeah.
So, if we want to go that route,
I think I would have
what Portland's doing.
I think I would have been prepared with my press conference quote about Brandon Miller's like off the court situation if I was Mitch Kupchak though.
Dude,
that was brutal. Yeah. Trying to listen to that.
I don't know what they're doing. Yeah, I mean, I think too many teams passed on O-Max. I mean, I think honestly that's going to come back to, I think some teams are going to be kicking themselves in the butt, like Brooklyn having 2 picks there passed on him. Portland before that. I mean, Chris Murray's a nice player, but it's the stretch of those 3 Lakers, Heat, Warriors that I think they're going to see O-Max over the next 2 years and be like, dang it.
Yeah.
Like, we could have used this guy. And, you were talking about Lowe talking about on his podcast about the Celtics, was that their target there at 25?
Yeah. So Zach Lowe and Jeremy Woo on the Low Post podcast were talking about how at 25, they think that the Celtics pick was going to be O-Max. And then when they realized that the Mavericks took him, that's when they traded down. And then they traded down like two more times after that. But the Celtics were going to go after him with that pick. That would have been a really good pick for them.
Because all the good teams are all searching for guys like him right now.
Yeah.
That 6'7", 6'8", big body, endless motor that can defend, that can chase guys like a Jordan Hawkins around screens, that can guard guys, the bigger bodies like Cam Whitmore's. Like, this is what he did in college. And so I think that's why, combined with how, just professional of a dude he is and how exceptional a human being he is already, I think that's why he was rising some boards. And yeah, I just think some of those good teams are going to really kick themselves for passing on him. But I don't have any, like, there's no teams. I mean, I was kind of surprised, like, the OKC did that, they absorbed basically like a little over $20 million with Berton stuff and his guarantees and stuff to move up to take a guy in Cason Wallace who really doesn't have a path to like start for them.
And doesn't really make sense for the Magic either. They have Cason Wallace and Jalen Suggs, and like they have Cole Anthony, they have Markelle Fultz. Like, it feels like they have a bunch of guards like that. If they're going to go a different way, they'd go the Anthony Black route, and they already had picked him. So yeah, it did seem weird that Bertans takes him to the salary floor. I think though, that's the one reason why you make that type of move and get there. Unless they want to take his contract and use it in a different trade later. Maybe they just need the contracts to send out. So yeah, I mean, that's an interesting angle to look at with them too.
Yeah, and I think the other stories of the draft is just like the trades that didn't happen. That what the heck is Atlanta doing?
Damian Lillard's still in Portland.
Well, hold on, we should be getting an update. That's really not an update.
Hold on, let me check my phone.
I keep on waiting for the tweet notifications. Like, Damian Lillard's going to take the next 72 hours to really think about his future. I'm like, what are we doing?
Well, we got the Chris Haynes after the draft that was like, Damian Lillard and the Blazers have not talked about his future. It's like, well, this is not an update, Chris Haynes. Like,
it's like, yeah, well, he's in like freaking Europe, right? Like, or I don't know. It's just, but yeah, I mean, I think it's that. I think it's, Brooklyn didn't make any moves. I thought for sure Atlanta was going to make a move to ditch some money.
They still have to. I've been reading a lot of what Brad Rowland's saying about it, and they like there is a mandate from ownership to not be in the tax next year, so they have to move one of these guys in free agency.
Yeah, so I'll be curious to see what happens with that. They'll probably like dump somebody like DeAndre Hunter to Detroit or something, and it'll be like a pretty good pickup for Detroit. But
that would be.
But yeah, I mean, I think the lasting question is just, what's Sacramento up to? About ditching the Rashawn Holmes contract. They open up $30-some million in cap, and now they can go out and add to this young core that did so well last year. And if you're Dallas, you're fans of the Mavs, I'm constantly looking at those other teams in the playoffs and saying, all right, who's taking a step forward this offseason?
Yeah.
And for a Kings team that they'll probably be projected by some people to take a step, back next year, because this is a natural thing, what people will probably project for them. But if they go out and spend $30 million on a Draymond Green, or they go out and trade for somebody, sign a trade, whoever it is, and add another really good piece to this team, it's like, dang it, like, go ahead and like keep them in the, locked into that top 6 there. So I'll be curious, man. These next weeks, I think this is also going to be pretty crazy too, of leading up to free agency, that I think we're still going to see a flurry of moves. Like, just think already, we've already seen Porzingis, Marcus Smart, Chris Paul, Jordan Poole, Brad Beal.
Yeah,
like,
really.
These are all the names we've already seen moved. I think we're going to see a handful of other ones move before free agency even starts, before this new year, calendar year, however you want to say it, league year starts.
It's going to be an interesting ride. We'll be here daily talking about the Mavericks, talk about the Mavericks side. Tomorrow, again, we'll talk about the Mavericks free agency. How much in the mid-level do they have? Who are the targets the Mavericks will go after? Talk about some of that tomorrow. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.